Welcome back, guys, to another video. In this video, we are going to talk about the biggest mistakes you're making with clients on client calls specifically. Happy to have Ryan here again, one of our main coaches here at the Recruiter School. Ryan, thanks for your time and thanks for joining me. But what are your overall high-level thoughts about this topic here?
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. And I like this one specifically because I see a younger Ryan in a lot of these mistakes. A lot of these mistakes I've made myself. So happy to share more insight and context on where areas that we see some folks go wrong and how you can avoid those mistakes in the future.
When it comes to sales or recruiting, a lot of the focus is how do I get clients? But then once you actually get clients responding and you set up calls with them, a lot of people are dropping the ball. They don't know what to do and kind of winging it. And this is like the perfect opportunity for you to not only put your best foot forward, but really have the call structured so that you can really extract as much as you can with a clear call to action in terms of next steps and also ensuring that your relationship with clients start off on the right footing, which is key. So I hope that this video can help and we'd love to hear your thoughts about it at the bottom. So first one, this is a no-brainer, guys, just to kind of jump in, not being prepared for the call. And if you're like, oh my goodness, I need to be prepared for the call. Yes, you absolutely should. So the biggest mistake here is going into a call completely unprepared, casual. It'll just lead to missed opportunities or just lead to you having to follow up or schedule more calls, possibly even losing that client, which is a big no-no. So some of the easy solutions that come to mind is you want to do your research ahead of time. Like who's the client, who's their business, what's even like the client's like personal track record and story, like what positions, obviously are they working in now, but what have they done before, just to kind of get a better understanding. What company are they working at? What does the company do? Understanding the businesses, go to the website, go to the job description page, go to the career page, dig in, learn as much as you can, understand like what are their hiring challenges, or if you're doing client calls for more general sales purposes, right? Like what are their sales challenges? What are their goals? Understanding their industry, but making sure that you prepare really relevant questions and tailoring your pitch to their specific needs, which is something that we're going to go a lot deeper in just a bit for this video. But some of the things that you can kind of think about, guys, is before the call, maybe take a couple minutes, right, to review the company's website again. Any other collateral, LinkedIn page, any PDF that you can download, any forums that they're active in, anything that you can find online or offline. You just want to be a sponge and just learn as much as you can so that you can really come off credible, but you can relate with them at that call when, aside from going over the tactical stuff, like you just want to be able to kind of connect with them and make sure that you're coming off as someone that you know what you're talking about and you know and you're aware of who they are and the company they're working at and what they do, right? This is super, super key.
You are the one who asked for this call. And so it is a very, very bad look for you to be the one to book the call, start the call, and then you're like, sorry, what does your business do? Or what are you hiring for? Like what do you need?
Are you struggling with getting responses from clients? Are you an established recruiter who is struggling to break six figures and beyond? Are you looking to start recruiting part-time and you don't know how? Do you feel burned out and stuck spending hours and hours each day in manual tasks like sourcing and outreaching and feeling like you have no time to actually run and grow your business? I am absolutely happy to announce that we have launched our own recruitment, educational, and coaching program to help you on your journey. We made sure that everything I've learned in the past 10 years, the tips, the strategies that really helped me build multiple seven figures of placements on my own desk with some of the best companies in the world will be included in there. We'll also be including things like how you can build an acquisition system that brings in clients every month to your agency hands-free, how you can maximize the probability of a positive close during negotiations, how you can automate and outsource your day-to-day operations so that you don't have to spend hours per day researching or sourcing, how you can figure out the new and modern way to scale your agency that minimizes risk and maximize your upside potential. And we've also included much, much more. The best thing about this is not only will you be getting amazing content, but we will also handhold you and be with you every step of the way to make sure that you are held accountable and you crush your goals. We'll also share with you our own tech stack, tools, and plugins we actually use, plus everything else we know about automation and AI to help you save time, work smarter, and not be a slave to your business. The exciting news is that we've actually rolled this out to a select few people earlier this year, and I'm excited to see them well on the way to multiple six figures, with some breaking $30,000 to $50,000 per month already. So if you're interested to be a successful recruiter that can dominate in any market conditions, make sure you click on the link below to chat with another member of our team, and we're happy to chat with you to see if we can help you out. Make sure you jump on this really quickly. See you on the other side.
Anything else, Ryan, that you want to add to this?
Yeah, so for this one, when it comes to preparedness for the call, most likely you're the one who booked this call. You reached out to them outbound. You are the one who asked for this call. And so it is a very, very bad look for you to be the one to book the call, start the call, and then you're like, sorry, what does your business do? Or what are you hiring for? Like what do you need? That is just the quickest way to just lose all all credibility and trust, if there was any to start with. So being that you're the one who asked for this call, who set this up, who fought for this conversation, you're going to be the leading force in this conversation. You have to come with all your notes ready to go. And you don't need to spend hours and hours preparing for each call. But Preston, as you mentioned, just taking a couple of minutes to understand, what is this company? Who are the big players in it? What do they do? What hiring needs do they have? That is going to go a long way in the conversation. You can just skip all those kind of questions and dive right into the nitty-gritty details about what they need, how you can help. You don't want to have to lose time and lose credibility trying to figure all that out on the fly. You want to be able to know all that information off the bat so you come off credible and you come off like you are the right person for the job.
Second one, not building rapport early on, Ryan. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, this is a good one, and it really ties closely into the last one about preparedness for the call. Not only is it good to do some research on the company or they're located, what they do, but also on the person you'll be chatting with. It's good to have just a little bit of background on them, so you know kind of what background do they have that they'll be bringing into this conversation. Maybe there's something about their background, your background that matches that you can chat about. Maybe you went to the same college, or you grew up in the same state, or you like the same sports team, whatever it is. People at the end of the day like to do business with the people they like. And so in the beginning of the call, before you dive into the nitty gritty, before you dive into the pitch, before you dive into your services and why you're so great, it's super, super important to take a few minutes, small talk, get to know them a little bit, and dive in. You want to have a very friendly demeanor and really want to, I don't want to say you want to be like their friend, but you want to have them think of you in a positive light. And so the quickest way to do that is just taking a little bit of time at the beginning of the call, ask how their day is going, make a little comment about, maybe you took a trip to the city they live in, just being able to kind of bring down the tension a little bit. Because if you're hopping on a call with someone, they've never met you before, they might be thinking, all right, who is this person? Can I trust them? I don't know. But if you're able to just calm down a little bit, get to know them, they're going to be able to bring down their defense a little bit so that they are more receptive to your services and your pitch later on in the conversation.
The biggest thing you said that I agree with is people want to do business with people. Be human, be you, right? Do you want to do business with a robot? No one does. And so it's really, really important to find any sort of level of connection to kind of be an icebreaker, to set the tone for the rest of the conversation. And what's really also great to know is that what you're learning here doesn't also just apply to calls. You can apply this to emails, to messaging. It's super important to toss in an icebreaker, because that actually can help differentiate your message from anyone else. And that can only happen if you put in that time and effort to actually do research, to learn about the person that you're reaching out to, than someone who is just another lead that you find on some list, right? And so always revert back to the human elements, the personal elements, and building that rapport. Do not underestimate the importance of it. It can absolutely help you. All right, next, emphasizing features over benefits. So as you can see here, so we get caught up a lot in just listing features of our services without emphasizing how those features will benefit the client. We're essentially vomiting to the client how great we are by telling them the gajillion features that we do, right? This applies to cold calling. This applies to calls and emails and messaging, any sort of engagement that you do when it comes to outbound sales. A lot of people fall into this pitfall where they just focus on okay, who am I? What do I do? How am I different? And then just vomit all of that to the client, thinking that it's actually something the client wants to help. But here's the thing, everyone's doing that. So what you're actually doing is really not that unique. What you actually have to really clearly show in cases like this is talking about the features is great, but what's more important, how does that connect with the biggest pain point and need of the client? And how is that actually going to give value and benefit to the client? Just telling them how great you are doesn't do anything for them. Showing them how it can help them make 30% more revenue, save them 10% more costs. They can hire 5 times faster with you, or, you can send them an amazing candidate tomorrow, actual tangible things that align with the pain that they're going through right now. That is how you actually elicit emotion and response to hopefully lead to a successful client call, right? So example, instead of listing all the fancy tools and features and all the cool things that you utilize, you could bring to the table, explain how fast you'll fill the role, but explain how you're actually going to help and be the solution to their pain point. So again, the focus and the solution here is showing how you are the ultimate solution to their pain. Whatever they're going through, how can you solve it? And if you're not making that clear, really nothing else matters. And it's going to be very difficult for you to elicit any sort of responses. So focus on the why and the how. Explain how your service will make the client's life easier or help them achieve their goals. Nobody cares at the end of the day if it has nothing to do with them, if they're not going to benefit, right? We're all humans, a small percentage or maybe a greater. We're also a little selfish in there, and everyone's always thinking thinking about themselves. So if you can approach them, come to the table and be like, hey, you're awesome. I know you're going through this pain point and this is exactly how we can help you. And oh yeah, we're cheaper, more affordable. We can move 10 times faster. That's how you do it instead of, hey, Ryan, nice to meet you. Just vomit and then be like, see ya. Let me know if you're interested, right? That's not how you do it. So again, a fun tip here. There's a fun framework that you can use. So our quote unquote feature helps you quote unquote benefit, which results in quote unquote outcome, right? So our team specialization in finance means we can send you top 5 candidates within 3 days, resulting in a time to hire of less than 2 weeks. You're clearly showing them you acknowledge their pain, you bring a benefit, and this is an outcome that they're hoping to achieve fast, and you are the guy or the woman to be able to make that happen. So again, super important here, and it's a common mistake a lot of people make.
Absolutely. I think just one way to really summarize this whole slide is kind of touching on what you said, Preston, about a very humbling thought, but no one cares about you. They just care about themselves and what you can do for them. And so when you think about an email you're sending or a call you're making or a conversation you're having with a client, would you care if someone just gave you their whole life story? Probably not. But would you care if they were like, hey, Preston, this is what I can do for you? Probably would care a lot more then. So just keep that in the back of your mind whenever you're doing any kind of outreach or messaging or meetings, to think about, what does this person care about? And likely it's not about all the fancy tools and specializations you have. It's about what can you do for them.
One more fun tip, guys, instead of telling them what we can do for them, also show them, right? So this is where, if done correctly, if you have like a really great success story, or if you've worked with a competitor of theirs and you've achieved some amazing results, that will be the time to just really highlight that, just to kind of give you more social proof and credibility. That stuff works. But if you're just leading with that and not really showing how you're the actual solution to the pain point, then it just loses its power and impact, right? So it's important for you to be crystal clear here. If you have social proof to back it up, I think that can make your argument and case a lot stronger. Just a fun little tip to kind of keep in mind. Next one, talking too much, Ryan.
Yes, this is one that I was really thinking back to my old self when I was kind of making this slide here, because it's definitely something I've been guilty of in the past and am still, even to this day, working on, is just ensuring that there's a nice balance in the conversation between the amount that you talk and the amount that your client talks. In general, it's always better to be the one who talks less. The goal is for you to have your client or the person you're talking to provide more information, because that will give you more details and more kind of wiggle room to be able to show how your services match what they are looking for. So one thing that's we like to keep in mind during these conversations is the 80-20 rule, where you like to have your prospect or your client speaking about 80% of the time while you only speak about 20%. Now, that's not to say, we're not telling you to go get a timer out and keep that right next to your phone or next to your computer while you're talking, but just keep that in the back of your mind of, say everything you need to say, but also say it succinctly. Give them room for them to talk about what they need, their goals, what they're looking for. And so if you just keep that in the back of your mind of, okay, how can I let them open up? How can I let them talk more? How can I talk a little bit less? That will help you just develop more rapport and get more information that you need to make it a successful call. And so one more specific or actionable tip we like to do for these calls is asking open-ended questions. You don't want to ask questions like, you're looking for 5 years of experience, right? You're looking for this, right? You're looking for that, right? You want to say, tell me more about what you're looking for. Or I see the job description says the salary goes up to $100,000. Tell me more about kind of the salary budget wiggle room you guys have. And just being able to not ask yes or no questions, but open-ended questions is going to prompt the client to talk more, give you more information. And the more information you have, the better a recruiter that you're going to be.
This is the ultimate hack just about having good conversations, even outside of like client calls. This is just about life, right? So if you come and you talk to someone and all you do is ask them questions and all you do is have them talk most of the time, they will actually walk away thinking, wow, I just had the most amazing conversation with Preston, the most amazing time with Ryan, because all we did is just have them talk about themselves or what interested them. And that's what people actually want to do at the end of the day. So apply that to a sales setting, whether it's an 80-20 rule or a similar framework to that. Apply that same logic is the ultimate hack to having just really, really good rapport and conversations with anyone, whether it's a random person, an intern, or like a CEO, right? Like have them talk about themselves. And if you're able to do that correctly and asking open questions certainly help, boy, oh boy, you've done a really, really good job. And there's a high chance they're just gonna be like, wow, I love this. I love talking to Ryan. I want to do it more again, right? And so this is just like a really, really cool kind of secret to know and apply. Ooh, this is really, really important. Misunderstanding clients' needs. So we can, of course, refer this to general sales calls, but also recruiting calls too, for those of you who are in the recruiting space. So I think in that context, it's where we see a lot of mistake is that when you approach a client with an email, right, you make it very, very clear, like, hey, this is your pain point. We are the solution. And then you really kind of want to continue with that train of thought on these calls and really show them like how you can actually understand their pain point and how you can actually be the solution and fix or achieve some sort of collective goal. And so in a recruiting lens, when you're approaching these calls, it's very, very important that most of the time, if not all the time, a client needs help hiring X role. Our job is to get on that call as an expert, a consultant, partner, a recruiter, to really understand like what exactly they're looking for, right? And to help you do that is you really have to go in deep and ask deep, specific questions, everything about the role, everything about, what's going well, what's not going well, their ATS, their hiring process, to really understand like the crystal clear picture for them to be like, okay, this is definitely something that we've done a lot. We can absolutely help you. We know how to approach the ideal candidate. We know what the ideal candidate looks like. And then we can go out there and execute very, very, very quickly. So the biggest mistake is recruiters just jumping in again, not really asking deep questions. They pick up any role that they can get. They work off of a job rec, and that's where things can start falling apart. So there's a lot of nuances in a job rec you just simply would not be able to know or kind of decipher without even talking to the client. And now that you got a client on the phone, without you actually like going through the job rec together or the actual criteria, you're missing so many opportunities and you're inviting even more opportunities for trouble to actually happen. You don't understand the role. You don't understand the ideal candidate profile. You don't know how to do the effective search. You're not going to be able to be that solution. The client gets mad at you. It becomes a really bad flywheel and you could risk just losing the client. That is absolutely the worst case scenario. So what's really important, guys, is take your time to really understand the role and really essentially don't stop that conversation and don't stop that line of questioning until you can fully visualize the ideal candidate profile crystal clear in your brain. You're like, okay, I know what this person looks like. I know what skills they need. I know where to find them. My job's done, right? And so it's very, very important for you to be on top with your questions, dial it in, but also not just ask about the role, but go through like the team, the culture, specific skills, hard and soft, and the overall experiences they're looking for, right? One more point to this, if you're just working off the job rec, like let's say you talk to like a startup founder and they're like, hey, we just want maybe like a designer that has 5 years of experience in Figma, which is the design tool. That's it. And you can go out there and you can find a great designer, but you'd have no idea that this founder actually prefers designers who come out of specific industries or startup backgrounds, right? And maybe you found somebody like this person's amazing, but all they worked at was larger enterprise companies. And the founder's like, nope, not interested. Without you asking that question, you'd have no idea why that founder rejected your candidate. But by actually spending the time and asking deep questions and unveiling like secrets and nuances, like, oh, the founder would actually prefer startup experience over none. They would actually prefer maybe finance experience over none. Then you can not only find a designer who has 5 years of experience in Figma, but now someone that also has perhaps finance and startup background. That would be absolutely perfect to what the founder is looking for, increasing your chance of that candidate getting interviewed and subsequently getting placed. So you can see how like without taking time, you're just not going to be able to collect enough information to go out there and find the best person. So make sure that you ask a lot of questions here, go really, really, really deep, and don't stop that conversation without you being crystal clear.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can make a whole video just on this one slide alone. But I think really just to sum it all up, it's worth taking the extra 5 or 10 minutes to make sure you get every single question you have answered so that you know exactly what the game plan is. You know exactly who you're looking for. Because if you go and don't ask these questions and you have like a 80 to 90% grasp on who you're looking for, you submit candidates and they're going to get rejected. You're going to waste time. The client's going to get frustrated. And so that 5 or 10 minutes extra you invest to ensure you have all your questions answered is going to pay off in dividends down the line. So just ensuring that this is not something you just kind of skip through. Like Preston's always said, do not leave this client call until you have a rock solid 100% absolutely clear understanding of who exactly the client is looking for.
Perfect. Let's move on. Next one, not solidifying the finances. Ooh, this one's important, Ryan. What are you thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for a lot of folks, whether it's sales folks or recruiters in general, especially when they're starting out, this can be a scary one, is talking about the numbers, right? You're going to say, these are my fees, these are my costs. And it's really easy to kind of skirt around this conversation and just, ensure that you understand who they're looking for, you think they're a good fit, and then you just kind of drop the ball and don't really mention the numbers, the finances of how it all works. But as you know, we don't do any searches unless a contract is signed. And for a contract to be signed, there has to be a fee in there. You have to say, okay, for me, every time I make a placement, I'm going to get 30% of the candidate's first year salary. I'm going to get 25%, 20%, whatever the number is. That is one part of the conversation that, yeah, might be a little more uncomfortable to talk about, but is absolutely crucial that you talk about just so you're on the same page. Also, when it comes to recruiting specifically, there's a lot of different routes you can go with going contingent or retained. And so there's different models, different ways you can negotiate that. And one piece of advice we always share is in these calls, just be transparent, just be 100% crystal clear about what your structure is. Let's say I work only on contingency basis for 25%. That is the fees. And then you just hear what the client says. Maybe that's great for them. Maybe they want to negotiate, whatever the case may be. But you have to be super crystal clear on finances, because worst case scenario is you kind of, don't talk about the finances. You don't really agree on anything. Then you send them a candidate, you make a placement, and then you don't know how much to bill them. They're like, oh, well, we'll figure it out later. And then, you're kind of in this mad scramble to figure out how much do they owe me? How much do I charge? Is it too much? Is it too little? And you can avoid that whole entire headache if you're just clear on these intake calls about, this is my model. This is what I will get paid upon successful completion of our services, yada, yada, yada. So while it can be a little daunting at times, ensure that you're clear about what is my model, and then ensure that before you leave the call, you and the client are on the exact same page regarding what all those numbers look like.
It's all about being efficient and respecting everyone's time. If you don't talk about the finances, you're just going to have to chase them, and then you can risk losing the client, or it's just going to end up taking 5 to 10 extra steps without you getting a decision. And then you really just, again, as Ryan said, you're in this kind of awful limbo state. You don't know whether to put it in work or not. So whether it's your friend or not your friend, or a new client or cold or hot lead, don't be afraid to go over the finances. I literally just talked to someone yesterday and he's like, hey, I was referred by a friend to the hiring manager. We got on the call. I didn't talk about the finances and the call went great, but because we didn't go over the finances, I don't know whether to proceed. I followed up. I'm not hearing back from them. I'm now kind of worried if I shot myself in the foot, I might lose this client. So you don't want to be in this situation, and you definitely don't want this to happen. So the best thing, how we structure our client calls, is at the end of it, you want to go over the finances and just be crystal clear and make sure that if you can negotiate on the call. Don't do it over email, over 20 different email threads. Be efficient with your time with them on it. Go over, try to negotiate, try to come to some sort of mutual terms that work best for everybody. Send them the agreement, have them signed. Now you're off to the races. So don't do all of that work to get a client on a call, to collect that role information, and then only to not talk about your business model and your finances. Might as well just end it strong, guys. So please, please, please go over that. Last but not least, it's also extremely important to set clear timeline expectations. A lot of mistakes that we see recruiters do is they often promise candidates too quickly, or they set unrealistic expectations, or they set no expectations at all, right? About how fast that they can go, or how slow they can go, or how many cans they can send. And by not doing that, the clients will just end up resulting into just absolute frustrations. Communication can start breaking down, and this can just lead to a unfortunate decision of the client choosing not to work with you anymore. So when you get a client, when all things are said and done, the agreement's set and stuff like that, it's very important to, before you end that first call, or perhaps you can have another call to kind of launch everything officially after an agreement is signed, to clearly go over expectations. Like, how many candidates are you shooting for each week? What is their interview process? How fast that'll take you? How slow that'll take you based on your historical track record and data? If you want to do a weekly check-in, maybe a weekly check-in or a recurring call could be something fantastic that you can kind of implement with your clients. And what about submissions? Are you going to submit, resumes into their ATS? Are you going to submit them ad hoc? Are they even okay with that? So it's very, very important for them to understand, okay, now that we've decided that we want to work with you, what does that actually look like? It's kind of like when you're talking to someone before you start a new relationship, what will that kind of look like the first 30, 60, 90 days? And you got to be really, really clear. I'm going to check in with you once a week. And by each week, I'll send you 3 to 5 great candidates. And we should be able to yield at least 2 or 3 interviews by then. Or, hey, I'll be able to send you maybe 3 or 5 candidates every other day because of the nature of this role and how confident we are to build that pipeline for you. Not communicating this, you can still not communicating it, assuming that you perform really, really well. But absolutely, it helps communicating it, because if you perform well, pat yourself on the back, it makes you look good. But if you somehow don't perform well and then you give them an unrealistic expectation, that can end up hurting you very, very badly. And so just make sure that expectations are aligned, crystal clear, and do whatever you can to set your relationship off with the clients on the best note that you can.
Absolutely. And one kind of follow-up point to this too is that the timeline expectations go both ways. So as Preston was just talking a lot about ensuring that the expectations that you give for, how quick we'll send candidates, what you can expect, it's also important to ask and ensure you're on the same page for clients as to when they'll get back to you. Ideally on the call, you like recommendations all right, I'll send you 3 to 5 candidates per week. Is it reasonable for you to get back to me within 24 hours or 48 hours or 2 business days, whatever it is, after I send you a candidate or after an interview happens? Something that we see a lot is sometimes even in our own agency is you submit a candidate, or a candidate has an interview, and then it takes 3 or 4 days for you to get a response or get any kind of feedback. And that's what you want to avoid. You want to be really closely in a lockstep with the client. So immediately after you submit someone, or immediately after someone interviews interviews, you know what are the next steps, you know the feedback. And so ensuring that you not only share with them what they can expect from you, also it's important for you to ask, what can I expect from you regarding when you'll get back to me? What is our communication style going to look like? How often are we going to sync? So just a reminder that yes, it's important for you to set your own expectations, but also ask for their expectations as well to make sure you're just fully aligned as you start this new business relationship.
Well, there we have it. I mean, we talked about a lot here. We could have just maybe perhaps make 10 additional videos about each of these slides and just go a lot more in detail. But I hope that whether it's making sure that you prepare adequately, to building that relationship and rapport, to talking about your finances, all of these things are super crucial for you to be able to execute not only a great client call, but hopefully a fantastic client relationship, right? And it takes so much work to even get here. So please don't fumble it and don't take these calls lightly. Do your preparations, do your research, bring your expertise to the table, and do whatever you can to get the job done so that, hey, if they are hiring again, they need additional help, absolutely, like they're the fantastic scenarios for them to reach out to you again. And then, you can create a long, fulfilling relationship, doing a lot of great work and making a lot of great money at the same time. So I love this. This is super, super important when it comes to just interacting and engaging with clients. And I hope that you guys learned a thing or two. Any last thoughts here, Ryan?
I think we really covered it all. I think one real big thing to summarize it is just ensuring that no matter if it's on the fees or the timeline or what they're looking for, you just want to be exactly in sync with whatever the client's needs are and what they're looking for. So in whatever way you can, just try your best to ensure that you are always on the same page as your client every step of the way, and that's going to lead to you having the most success.
Perfect. Well, hey, if you like this video, give us a thumbs up. If you have any more questions, feel free to drop it down. And if you want to see other topics that Ryan and I can make for you, please let us know. But otherwise, really appreciate your time. We'll see you guys on the next one.